This seminar we are going to discuss meaning of devotion, and it is quite a definite subject, but could be misunderstood if we don't have some basic understanding and also practical experience of it. The basic idea of devotion is some sense of in the ordinary sense, is some sense of trust. The object of devotion is trustworthy and definite. Compared with yourself, the object of devotion is a much more solid and attitude to ourselves. The devotee's point of view is concerned to ourselves is that we feel somewhat uncertain, not solid, or not full enough. We feel lack of something. Therefore we have a devotion to develop devotion to somebody, is that we feel that we are not adequate enough to stand on our feet, and we have to have someone else to refer to receive in order to receive something, some advice, or to receive some security, receive some warmth. These conditions of devotion could apply to our parents, our school teacher, spiritual teacher, our bank manager, our wise relatives, men who achieve the object of life, conventional sense, ideally. And also had accumulated a lot of experience in life, or a lot of informations, technical or intuitive, whatever. So the general assumption we could make in terms of devotion in the conventional and ordinary sense, to begin with, is that devotee's mentality is a sense of poverty, the lack of something. Which is not always necessarily a depressive situation at all. Sometimes when you feel lack of something, you feel good, that you feel you are providing a fantastic vessel to receive the warmth, the love and kindness of the greater person, inferior person. Such is like in the conventional sense of falling in love to someone. When person is in love, you feel that you are completely intoxicated and high on that energy. Although that you demand a tremendous lot of attention and warmth from the other person, but at the same time you are filled with something which is seemingly rich, and not particularly poverty-stricken in the obvious sense, but there is still a sense of a subtle emptiness, subtle hollowness of something. So still such idea of devotee could be categorized, even person height of in love or whatever, is still a sense of looking for fulfillment of something in the conventional sense. So we could say that the devotion as such comes from a relative reference of a lack of something in ourselves. You may feel extremely happy about or excited, intoxicated in your lack of something, but still it's basically poverty. But not in the poverty in the sense of necessarily of depression or lost, but in the sense of something's unfulfilled. And the attitude to object of devotion is maybe not necessarily ideal object of devotion in every point, but a particular area that you're looking for, that object of devotion is ideal one, or even partial ideal one, therefore one tend to go to it. You might go to receive advice from a wise friend who's partially neurotic, but he has a lot of wise things to say still. So you go for that with a pinch of salt. So a sense of lost is always there. In the Hinayana level of devotion is concerned, in the Buddhist tradition, that the devotion is very definite, very direct. The formula for devotion in Hinayana level is what's known as taking a refuge. How you can conduct yourself. Take refuge to the Buddha as an example. Take refuge to the Dharma as the path. take refuge in the Sangha as a companionship. That to begin with, the devotion, inspiration of devotion arises from that we are trapped in a samsaric whirlpool. That we're filled with the pain, we're filled with the dissatisfaction, we are filled with neurosis, and furthermore we're trying to do something better, trying to get out of those, but each attempt becomes too speedy, and which makes us more and more drowned into the mud. It's like a traditional example is that an elephant feels very hot in the tropical sun, and trying to bathe itself in the cool water, it jumps into a mud pool, and as it jumps in, it sinks more, which at the beginning seemingly to be a pleasurable thing, but once in halfway through, 2/3 of this body has gone down, then begin to panic and struggle more trying to get out of it, but too late. That's the samsaric notion of trying to rescue ourselves. By trying to rescue ourselves out more, we sink in more constantly. We feel that we're helpless. Some people try to commit suicide, thinking that if this body stops functioning, all the experience will subside. But to their horror, something goes on continuously after their body goes. So there's a sense of really that you made your life a complete mess. Even though that you might feel that you have made some success, but the end of the successfulness, what are you going to do after you have achieved what you wanted? Then go back to square one. There's a sense of real. The master plan has cheated us. The master planner has cheated us. That we have really managed to catch ourselves into this pain, confusion. That's the before you aspire to take a refuge, or becoming a refugee, and then some point that we feel instead of purely trying to struggle within ourselves, maybe we could look around and try to find someone to rescue us. To take a refuge to the Buddha, as an example, is this point is the identify with such a person that how Buddha in his one lifetime attained enlightenment and able to save himself. Which causes us giving up struggle. that there's somebody who had done it. We could do the same thing. And that is the attitude or mentality of devotion at that point. A sense of emergency operation at this point. And the struggle had to go, the life situation becomes a useless struggle becomes irrelevant. So therefore we have to also try to find that the pains that we have experienced in our struggle cannot be forgotten, but we have to work with it. We have to study from the bad memories of the past and make that as a learning process. Take a refuge to the Dharma. And the take a refuge to the Sangha, from Hinayana's point of view, is those people who had done those things, and traditionally people who were leading a monastic life. Stop struggling, order for Sangha, regard as companions that identify with them. And if a person is a layman who had never taken ordination and never become a monk, that layman's duty is to support such gracious, good Sangha, good orders of Sangha. What particular orders they belong doesn't matter, Sarvasvadins, Theravadins, Mahasangikas, or whatever they are. So layman's duty is to respect those people who had done this journey, able to get out of the mud, and support and encourage them. Give them food and shelter, encourage their journey, that they could encourage us. So the Hinayana's approach to devotion from this point is not particularly a sense of emotional security as such, but it is an emergent operation. That relating the whole thing is somebody rescued us. Like if you are stuck in a highway and all your engine is stop functioning and you can't do anything, and when you call the emergency service to rescue you, fix up your car, or even tow away you inside your car into the nearest good place, that we don't have a chance to think about our poverty and our inadequacy, because we are so overwhelmed by this chaos, catastrophe that happened. We want to get to the place quickly, but we have to give up that idea altogether. That when something goes wrong completely with our car, there's no chance to meet our appointment. The only thing that is good for us is to ask the people who rescue us. We're more concerned about whether the rescuer is going to come and fetch us or not. They're more concerned with that than the hypothetical idea of that getting emotional feedbacks or any kind of security, good comforting words or whatever. But anything we need is that the tow truck should come and fetch us. Whole thing becomes so alarming and we are stuck there so much. So the Hinayana's approach to devotion is needed for rescuer from the point of view of the emergency, the rescuer. Which makes quite clear this point is that we are not talking about spiritual shoppers in this case. In the case of spiritual shoppers or dilettantes, that they go from one place to another place because it's their luxury. In the case of those who are really involved in working with themselves, have no time to even shop around, simply getting some basic treatment, rescuing process. So Hinayana's approach is, as far as the devotion is concerned, that emergence operation is the Hinayana approach. You have no time to philosophizing. The nature of your got stuck. You have no time to analyzing, but desperately needed because the pain is so intense. Psychologically, that there seem to be different layers of honesties involved in Hinayana's approach to acknowledging the urgent need for rescuer, opposed to dilettante spiritual shoppers. Spiritual shoppers might feel that there's some problem, they might acknowledge there's some problem, but the problem can be patched over it until you get to the real place when you can get real good service. Abandoning your old clothes with a patch and buy a new one. We could say that spiritual shopping is same as synonymous to spiritual materialism in this case, in a very feeble and very naive way, very simplistic way. It's not the subtle spiritual materialism which is a fantastic project of achieving egohood, but in this case it's very simple, naive approach to looking for entertainments of all kinds. The idea for devotion in this case is non-existent. Of course one might feel that when you visit this shop and a certain salesman has a tremendous personality and his merchandise are fantastically good, that we might feel occasional overwhelming trust of some kind from that point of view, but still the basic attitude is not desperate enough. The desperation has been concealed, patched over constantly until the all patchwork begin to fall apart. That's the final chaos where we hope such shoppers would comes to terms with their own freak out or breakdown, then really have to come to terms with it. There's no time to shop anymore. An emergent situation happens again. Whether such situations would happen or not is uncertain. But in the case of, getting back to the subject of Hinayana's approach to devotion is sense of emergency. Because it is emergency, there's no chance to analyze or pick and choose at all. All thing becomes straightforward. There seems to be a danger that coming up from that is that if there is a sense of need for rescue, then what happens after you are somewhat rescued? That your basic problems are being dealt with, and you have a chance to, you can afford to relax a little bit. And the possibilities of that, you might look for a better rescuer if this particular service wasn't ideally helpful. Although it cured the first symptom, first problem, that seemed to be the problem. That there's need for further luxury. Suppose we could discuss that in later talk. We could have discussions on what we've discussed this talk in Hinayana, this version of discipline and devotion. If you'd like to ask questions.
Is it premature to ask what the Mahayana and the approach is to the problem? We'll be discussing that another time, and is it inappropriate?
I think we have a lot of time to discuss about that. If you're going to stay here the rest of the seminar, you are?
Yes, I am.
Sure. Otherwise we have nothing to talk about then.
Yeah.
How does taking refuge in the Buddha as an example cause us to give up the struggle?
I suppose you could say that somebody who shows the way to give up struggle. And you have to help yourself. You have to cooperate with the rescuer, who might be the Sangha. And Buddha showed us example of how to help yourself to begin with. Like if you are stuck in the mud like an elephant, that you have to find some way of getting out rather than inviting friends to come into with you. Because then you are causing pain for your friends to sink in as well.
Instead of just thrashing around, then just start taking more skillful action.
Yeah, there's a sense of that. You have to begin with, you have to stop panicking. And also, next thing, you have to stop pushing too hard. And in other words, sense of acceptance of the situation.
In this type of panic, you mentioned connection with the Hinayana idea of
Couple of what?
in this sense of panic, we're talking about in terms of producing a Hinayana type devotion. It doesn't seem like that would allow for any judgment at all. I mean, the factors involved in your choice of rescuer would seem to be kind of just what's around you and you know what's the nearest thing, or easiest, or most available.
I don't see your logic particularly.
I mean, if you're really in a panic, aren't you going to be just grabbing for what's nearest, in some sense, nearest, in some sense of you know, available?
Sure, yeah. I think that's the whole point, is that saves you from shopping. You have no chance to shop around, and you go to something nearest to you.
So you can make very big mistakes also in that sense.
Well, it depends on how really desperate you are. If you're really desperate, then you have a sense of communication with the need for it. If your car got stuck in the highway, if somebody comes along a bicycle trying to tow you,
So there's some.
well, you say, forget it. I'm asking for bigger help than this. I mean, naturally, if you really need something, and your intelligence will be woken up, so you have very cutting insight happening at that point. You sort yourself, basically what you need.
Rinpoche, is it in relation to the luxury and the search for luxury? This is something when one's brought up as a consumer, and to look for luxury that one does fall prey to even in the spiritual life, and the search for devotion or for a source of devotion. Is it possible to have this sense of luxury, but also still at the same time to have a latent, perhaps less favored, sincere sense of the path or sense of an ideal? And are these two completely separate, the luxury and the true sincere sense of the ideal, or is that existent? Or must it be born after giving up the luxury?
I think the thing is, after giving up luxury, there's something really comes through. Otherwise, you are uncertain as to this is luxury or this is real thing. There is lost of a point of reference. It's like somebody is brought up as a millionaire as infant, has never experienced poverty. So that person's idea to wealth is partly need, basic need, but partly being luxury as well. So whole area is very fuzzy. It's not about person had to be to start with. The person had to experience some kind of pain, desperation, and then you really see what's the need for it and what is the extra for it. I mean, that's the Four Noble Truth, begins with the truth of suffering.
The suffering is the opposite of luxury.
Precisely, I hope so.
In the devotion to the Sangha, you talked about how everybody stands on their own so that they can rescue one who falls. Well, how does the intelligence there operate to tell the difference between being independent and when independence is necessary or helping someone? What's intelligence shows that the desire to help isn't the desire for kind of too much dependence?
I think it's a question of that if the Sangha, that particular person is willing to stand on his own, that automatically points out that when you be rescued, that friend will be encouraging you to be your own rather than constantly lean on this person. So some point you need some rescuer to rescue you. But after that, there's no further encouragement, or even that person does not expect to be thanked.
Is that the help that the Sangha gives each other? Is not thanking or not encouraging each other? I don't follow what the help is that you said that you help them out of the mud so that they'll be able to help us?
Help is just to give a basic push and then let go, rather than constantly nursing sympathy or making the other person weak and more helpless.
Does
not the rescuer have to help the person to realize that they have to rescue themselves?
Precisely, yeah. That's the taking refuge in the Buddha as an example. You say something more?
When you said that, it reminded me of like an eagle. The eagle sort of provides a nest to start with, and then just at a certain point just drops the eaglet out, and it either flies or crashes.
So? Yeah, that's a good one. So,
are there reasons why one struggles against the rescuer?
why what?
One struggles against the rescuer. Or against being rescued.
I think that depends on the degree of deception or pride.
Are there other reasons besides pride and deception?
I think, no, there's nothing other than that, which includes aggression and everything. Is that there's a sense where you don't want to give in, or you still want to shop for even for the last breath.
Couldn't that be doubt?
And if you're dying, you want to die dignifiedly, not being given in to somebody's help. We're going to discuss about that more later on.
So taking refuge, in that sense, doesn't necessarily mean that you totally give up the struggle, because the more you get into it, the more you come in contact with the subtle, the microcosm, the intricacies of personalities which make us, within the Sangha, sort of want to struggle or manipulate people who are coming for help and things like that. It just, like, you're not giving up the struggle at all, you're getting into the real struggle. Beyond your immediate sort of neurotic pain, you're getting into the real struggle of making yourself a whole person.
Well, taking refuge means simply that you acknowledge that you're subject to emergency rescue, and you're sense of self-improvising way of maintaining your ego does not function properly. So you are getting into further possible humiliation.
How do you reconcile this picture of utter desperation and helplessness with what I thought was the Vajra pride that was also accompanied taking refuge in the sense of that you can do it, and you identify with the example of the Buddha. It's not a state of helplessness or of panic and desperation, but that it was done and that you can do it.
And that comes with the panic. I think first you panic, you thought you can't do it, but then you realize you can do it. There's the force. There's the energy to do that. It comes from a panic to begin with. First you think you can't do it, then you realize you can do it, which is you begin to acknowledge this tremendous gift that something comes up.
And how do we know if the one who has rescued us is the one that we should continue with on the spiritual path? That is, in regard to being spiritual shoppers. The emergency operation, may be worked very well, but how about the kind of thing?
I'm going to discuss that next talk.
Rinpoche, when one is searching for rescue, or when one needs rescue, does the rescuer always appear in human form? Or might the rescuer be a particular life situation?
Well, it could come as a tow truck, helicopter, or human form. I can't think of anything else. I don't think flying saucer. What else do you have? You're a German Shepherd?
I think I was thinking more in terms of a teacher, maybe.
What?
I think I was thinking more in terms of the teacher than the rescuer.
Situation. Well, situations have to be realistic one, otherwise you can fool yourself. Had to be a real, definite thing coming on the spot. You can fool yourself by all kinds of ideas that there's a pigeon flew across your eye, therefore that means you should be doing something. Or you can interpret infinite kind of things, which is at this point it's no use because we are in such emergent situation. So it had to be something really definite and heavy-handed one.
When our car collapses and we have this feeling of an emergency situation, the realization of the frailty of our situation, and perhaps at that time we have our sense of emergency and rescue, then after the circumstances that the situation is dictated have been alleviated, how then can we maintain our sense of emergency so that we?
We're going to discuss that in the next talk. Yeah, I think that's something that we should really study. I'm sure a lot of people rescued, like ourselves here, but they are lost at the same time being rescued at the same time. So we have to discuss this very seriously. That is connected with the Bodhisattva approach at the same time. So we could discuss in the next session about that.
In other seminars previous to this, you seem to have put down a state where you're with a disciple or a person in such an emergency situation sees themselves as totally helpless or externalizes these good values and in fact you might have seen in a certain spiritual materialistic sense of putting all these trustworthy and admirable qualities in another person or outside oneself, making you totally helpless in the situation, and actually making the situation unproductive or unworkable. As opposed to seeing yourself with the ability or the qualities to start, to do something which will make it workable. And the situation you're describing now in this Hinayana approach seems to be dualistic. It seems to require something else, something outside, something that's not in us to help us.
I think that's very simple, because we do need some kind of first starting point somewhere, and we can't just say, you can't begin anywhere. So Hinayana approach is a stepping stone to begin with. In fact, that we all have a rescuer, and we all have physical situations to hang on to, either in the form of meditation centers or dhammadhatas or sitting practices or whatever. We have those things, and we can't just forget that literal situation. And we have to discuss that, and that is a Hinayana approach to begin with, and then from there it branches out. So I think the sense of organization or sense of discipline or physical situation that we can tune ourselves into seem to be very necessary to acknowledge that aspect as well. We might have to close our meeting at this point. And 8 o'clock, isn't it? 8 o'clock? See you later.
Computers here. Did you see me or Howard, please?